Japan. Going live from Japan. I am a writer here in Japan that I write different books about Japanese folklore, my experiences personally living in Japan for over 10 years, and talk about some of the Japanese traditional crafts that I ship, like this traditional no theater mask. This is the shoujo mask, an ancient mythical beast that is displayed on stage by different actors in the 700-year-old art form known as no theater. And today I want to come on here for a little bit short time. In August, I promised myself, this is out of self-respect for myself, that I would, go live every day, even if it's for 10 minutes. So today is going to be one of those days. Very short and to the point. So I want to start off with, you know, not my most recent book, like Yokai Shadows, which is a fantasy romance book. This is a special edition cover printed on washi paper. Or, not my recent thriller trilogy, like this techno thriller, psychological thriller based in Japan, like this, as well as this. Not these. No, I'm not here to talk about these, my recent thriller and psychological techno thriller stuff. I'm not here to talk about that recently. I'm here to talk about the first books that I started writing when I started out as an author back in 2016. Indie author based in Japan. During coronavirus, I even wrote one. Yeah, lots of different small, very short books, but I started off writing a bunch of different stuff just to get a feel for who I was as an indie author, and wrote a lot of different books. These are all experimental, and I even got one in the back here. And I'm gonna talk about these one by one. But first, I have to start off with the first book that I ever wrote, which is called Norbert the Nerd. 9 pages, and I wrote it when I was 9. And obviously you can tell the premise of the story. I was a nerd. And obviously I knew my audience because I went to an all-white school. This is why this character is white, Norbert the Nerd. I knew my audience. And, wrote a book about a nerd that, aiming to become popular so he can feel loved and appreciated. Because that's what we're all here for, right? We want to be loved and appreciated. That's me right there, 9 years old. Look at that. 9 years old. Grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. Went to a Catholic school for elementary school. 9 years old, wrote my first book, Norbert the Nerd. Very, not a very enlightening story, but wrote it when I was 9, and it's actually 6 pages, so it's even shorter than I thought it was. But, first thing, started off as 9, okay, all right. Then lived my life and went traveling, started university, thought I'd be a dentist, realized I was like, nah, you know what, I want to write actually. And so went to Japan, second year university, 19 years old, and back and forth. Long story short, at 24, I wrote my first book, and this is the book. It's called Kyosei. Kyosei is the book. Kyosei is a Japanese word for the harmony between nature and people. So people and nature living in harmony. I was on my environmental sustainability kick, and I went all natural. I stopped even wearing deodorant, which my family, when I went back after 3 years abroad, they were like, you smell like shit. Please put on some deodorant. And, I was all in my natural vibes, whatever. But anyway, wrote this book, Kyosei, and it is a story about basically me, but I'm not the person. It's based on me. It's based on my story. Yeah, guy gets basically transported from ancient China, and gets transported to modern Japan. And he has to figure out his life there. And his stature in ancient China was basically a philosopher, leader type of vibe. And his enemy in ancient China follows him into modern Japan, and they battle it out using music and different types of spiritual energies. But AI is in this, and that was 2016 when I wrote this, so I was already talking about AI and all that stuff back in the day. Not like it was that old, but you know, it's interesting to look at how far it's come since then. Someone says Sharingan. Yeah, if you know Naruto, you know that all of them have the insignia on the back of their clothes. And yeah, I was a big fan of Naruto back in the day. You know, I was back in, when was, yeah, I wrote this when I was 24, so I think I stopped watching Naruto back when I was probably 21, maybe, like second, yeah, just as I went to Japan, and I realized that none of it was like that. And anyway, that's what this book is about. And then this second book, this is the second book I wrote. It's called She Is Alive. And yeah, different type of story. This was actually during the Black Lives Matter when it first started. And I wanted to be more direct and stop being, you know, this is very indirect and kind of Japanese style. You know, I'm not saying the thing I want to say directly. I wanted to go a roundabout way. That's how people in Asia typically communicate. I wanted to go more direct with this, just straight up black woman. Uh, all the characters in this, there's like 6 women that band together, and they all have different backgrounds. Most of them are mixed ethnically, just like I am. And they use this No Theater. If you know No Theater, I just showed you this mask right here, 700-year-old art form. Yeah. Oldest form of theater in the world. And yeah, it's a lot of social justice issues, really around the time Black Lives Matter just started and was pure. And so I talk about that in this book. So that's She Is Alive and Kyosei. Then, you know, I wanted to go a little bit further, talk about a thing that I didn't know much about. This is the Nanking Revolution. If you know the real thing that happened, it was the Nanking Massacre. Basically, I wanted to challenge myself because I've been traveling and living in Japan for 3 years at that point that I wrote this. Remember, this is 2016. And I had spent 10 years studying Japanese karate under a sensei. So I was all Japan, Japan. But I wanted to challenge myself to think, you know, see Japan honestly, in a raw way, and from all different angles, not just the positive side. So I looked up Nanking Massacre, bought and rented or borrowed a bunch of the books that spoke about the Nanking Massacre from all different sides. So I got books from even Japanese soldiers, the Japanese side, that basically they ignore the fact that it happened or they bury the history, as well as the Chinese side, which some might say that it was overindulging in a lot of the numbers that they say about how many civilians are overestimated. But I read both sides, and I came to find that the most, or maybe I should say honest account, was a Japanese journalist, a Japanese female. Someone says, "Are you American?" I am American, but I live in Japan. I've been here for over 10 years. But I was born and raised in Florida, and my parents are Jamaican Chinese. So this was my second book, or I should say my third book. And basically the most honest account that I did research that I was able to do research on was written by a Japanese female journalist that basically interviewed the survivors, the victims, the civilians, the Chinese civilians, and the Japanese military officers that were still alive involved in the Nanking Massacre. And yeah, you get to see both sides of it. It's pretty intense, pretty intense. And I also, funny that I'm sitting right next to this. Someone says, "Are you from Taiwan or China?" My dad's, my dad's grandma and grandpa were half Chinese each, but born and raised in Jamaica, so they both didn't speak Chinese. But their parents, so that's my great grandparents on both sides, one of them on each side was pure Chinese, and they grew up in Guangdong, which is like the south of China, close to Hong Kong. So they speak Cantonese, and I think they speak a dialect like Hakka. But I only went to China once, 2015, and I met up with them just to, connect with my roots, or part of my roots. Again, I'm 1/4 Chinese, so, you know. But yeah, it was interesting. They can't speak English, so I had to use like a translator, Google Translate at that point. And I think there are some of them that live in Hong Kong, but it's mostly China. But I did live in Taiwan for like 6 months. I was traveling all over. I looked exactly like, this is actually a picture, this cover, the first novel that I wrote is based off of a picture I took in Nagano Prefecture, where it was all snow and all this back here. Anyway, I should edit that actually. When I cut this up after the live, I'll put the picture right next to it so you can see what it was based on. Yeah, but this, again, Nanking Revolution, I wanted to flip the Nanking Massacre on its head and make it a positive story. So this story is about a Chinese woman and a Japanese military officer that band together and go against the times, man. It was the research I did for this was insane, and this is part of it. This was a DVD that when I was living in Taiwan, DVD that documents the accounts of the Taiwanese comfort women. Comfort women were the women that were basically forced to sell themselves to Japanese military officers, where they were R-worded multiple times a day. And this is the accounts of those women that are in their 80s. Some of them can't walk, and it's crazy. And that was a dark time, but it was a thing that I felt was very important. And yes, again, all these books are on my website if you're interested in buying them. BrandonChin.net. BrandonChin.net. All right, that's Nanking Revolution. And, I told myself I would do 10 minutes. It's already 15. So I got a bunch of other books, but I think I should split this up so that I just keep this going. So anyway, thank you for those who joined, asked some. There was only a couple questions today, but I appreciate you guys nonetheless. Again, if you want any of these books, BrandonChin.net. If you're on TikTok, you can find Yokai Shadows on TikTok, on the TikTok shop. So get one of these right here, Yokai Shadows, printed on washi paper. I only have like a couple copies of that left, but I can also ship on regular paper. So thank you guys for joining. Brandon Chin. Angel says, "Hi, bro. What's up?" You caught me right as I was about to sign off. So appreciate you guys. Feel free to jump on my YouTube or Instagram if you want to ask any personal questions. Brandon Chin, author. And what else? YouTube, I think, is Raw Japan Art, maybe. Anyway, Angel, thank you. Appreciate you guys, and good night. Good night.